What if the movies that taught us to believe in happily ever after were built on stories of mutilation, terror, and supernatural bargains? Details Disney sanded off before we ever saw them. Here's the twist. In the original fairy tales, the darkness was not an accident. It was the point. You know the images by heart: Snow White singing to birds, Cinderella in a blue gown, Ariel bursting through the waves. These are not just movies, they are the emotional wallpaper of childhood. Disney did not simply adapt old stories. It replaced them so completely that most of us do not even realise there were other versions. Versions with red-hot iron shoes, severed toes, and true love that is not love at all. And once you see what got cut, happily ever after never sounds the same again. To understand what Disney did, we have to go back to fairy tales before the castle logo and fireworks, back to when stories were not colourful escapes. They were survival manuals. Imagine Europe in the age of the Brothers Grimm, plague, famine, high child mortality, and no safety net. Picture a smoky room lit by one candle. A parent pulls a child close, not to entertain them, but to program them. Outside, the woods are not mysterious. They are where wolves, bandits, and hunger live. A story is a fence made out of fear. Do not wander into the woods. Do not trust strangers. Do not disobey your parents. When collectors like the Grimms and writers like Hans Christian Andersen put these tales on paper, they were not thinking about plush toys or theme parks. Their worlds were full of punishment, blood, and the constant threat that if you broke the rules, nobody would come to save you. Then Walt Disney walked into that library of nightmares and did something brilliant. He kept the skeleton, princess, prince, magic, and villain, and he stripped away the parts that might actually haunt you. Let's start with one you think you know. Snow White. Disney gives us poison, a glass coffin, a kiss, and a wedding. Dark, but wrapped in music and sparkles. The older version does not stop at the wedding. In the Grimm tale, when the evil queen arrives at Snow White's celebration, she is not simply defeated. She is punished in public. Iron shoes are heated in a fire until they glow and forced onto her feet. And then they make her dance, not a lesson, a spectacle, step after step, burning through her until she collapses and dies in front of everyone. That is not vague jealousy. That is revenge as entertainment. A warning, especially aimed at women. Challenge youth, beauty, or power, and the world will punish you for it. Disney keeps the outline, the jealous queen, the poisoned girl, the rescue, the prince. But the torture vanishes. The wedding becomes the ending, not the beginning of cruelty. Snow White turns into a lesson that innocence is rewarded if you stay sweet enough while bad things happen to you. And that is the pattern. The danger remains, but the consequences get erased. Cinderella. We remember glass slippers, a pumpkin carriage, a sparkling transformation. The message feels simple: be kind, and one day your dreams will come true. In the older story, that dream has teeth. When the prince searches for the girl who fits the shoe, Cinderella's stepsisters don't just try and fail. Their mother pushes them towards something desperate. One cuts off part of her toe. The other slices away a piece of her heel. They force their own bodies to fit the role, because marrying into power is worth bleeding for. For a moment, it almost works, until birds spot the truth. Blood spills into the shoe. The lie is exposed. Later, those same birds punish the sisters, taking their eyes, marking them forever. Picture it, a delicate slipper filling with blood while everyone pretends not to notice. Disney turns this into a clumsy fitting montage and slapstick. But the original isn't a makeover story. It's body horror with a moral. People will mutilate themselves to fit an ideal, and society will destroy them when they're caught. Now let's go under the sea. The Mermaid. In Disney's version, Ariel trades her voice for legs, fights a sea witch, wins the prince, and earns her father's blessing. It's dramatic, but comforting. Anderson didn't write comfort. In his tale, the bargain is punishment. When she trades her tail for legs, it is agony. Every step feels like walking on sharp knives, and she must suffer in silence because the deal demands it. She can't explain who she is. She can't tell the prince what she gave up. She watches him drift towards someone else, someone who can speak. Then the story offers her one last escape: save yourself by harming him. She refuses. So instead of happily ever after, she dissolves into sea foam, choosing not to become a monster, even when it would save her. The point isn't romance, it's sacrifice. It's the horror of changing everything you are for someone who may never truly see you. Disney flips the message, the knives vanish, the ending becomes a reward. Take the risk and you'll be rewarded for it. And now, the one Disney had to rewrite the hardest. Sleeping Beauty. Disney gives us a cursed princess, a long sleep, a heroic prince, and a kiss that restores the world. Romantic, gentle, safe. But in some earlier versions, there is no gentle kiss. A sleeping girl is found while she cannot consent, cannot speak, cannot choose. A powerful man treats her silence like permission. She wakes much later to consequences she never agreed to. That's the old nightmare hiding under the pastel dress. Disney erases it completely. What remains is a myth where true love is always pure, always welcome, always the answer. The original asks unsettling questions about power and vulnerability. Disney closes those questions before they can even form. Here's a quick test. Think about how many Disney endings feel like a door slamming shut. The music swells, the screen fades, and the story stops right before anyone has to live with trauma, grief, or the messy consequences. So why did Disney do this? Part of it is timing. Walt was not making campfire warnings for adults trying to keep children alive through famine. He was making movies for families climbing out of depression and war, people hungry for reassurance. And let us be honest, horror does not sell plush toys. Mutilation does not build theme parks. So Disney kept the fairy tale silhouette and airbrushed the scars. Punishments became less cruel. Villains became more theatrical. Heroes became blameless and beautiful. Threats could be defeated in a single climactic scene. These rewrites also turned messy, local nightmares into clean, exportable myths. Stories shaped by specific European fears became universal Disney products with emotionally predictable endings. And that predictability is itself the product. But here's the catch. Even when you sand off the sharp edges, the old fingerprints stay. We still get stories where a girl's value is tied to beauty and obedience, where love fixes everything, even curses that never should have been placed, where villains die in ways that feel satisfying because we are told they deserve it. As kids, we do not notice. We are too busy singing along. As adults, something shifts. We start sensing the gaps, the shadows where something used to be. Why is the Queen punished so brutally just for aging and wanting power? Why does Cinderella have to be unfailingly sweet to earn rescue? Why does Ariel lose her voice for someone she barely knows? Those questions feel new when we ask them. They are not new. They were baked into the older versions from the start, because fairy tales were not designed to make you feel safe. They were designed to warn you that the world was not. Disney did not invent these stories. It inherited them and gave them a makeover so complete that most of us never think to look beneath the glitter. But the darker versions are still there, under the paint. A queen dancing herself to death in red-hot iron shoes. Sisters cutting their own feet to fit an ideal. A mermaid walking on knives for a love she never truly gets. A sleeping girl whose silence is treated like permission. And once you know that, every happily ever after starts to sound like an edit. Because real life does not wrap up in fireworks. Villains do not always fall off cliffs. Pain does not disappear just because the music swells. If you have ever rewatched these movies as an adult, you have probably felt it. that tiny itch under the nostalgia. A scene that suddenly plays colder, a punishment that lands harder, a romantic moment that feels off. That is the old story bleeding through the paint. So the next time you see that castle logo rise over the screen, pause and ask, what did this story have to become so we could call it family friendly? If you want more hidden histories behind the stories we grew up with, subscribe to Childhood Shadows. Tell me in the comments which Disney classic I should unmask next. Snow White, Pinocchio, Peter Pan, or Beauty and the Beast. The darker version is almost always still there, just under the surface.